Well, hi, everybody. I am so excited to be here. It is such a treat to be surrounded by kindred spirits. You know, people who voluntarily lock themselves in rooms by themselves for days and weeks and months at a time and pull things out of their brain and put them on the page and wrestle with the words and, you know, feel compelled to show the world, look what came out of my brain. And who often do it. Do you guys have a writing uniform? Like, this is sort of what my writing uniform looks like, and especially with my last book because I wrote it during the winter. And I would like to say that I put this on every morning, but I kind of slept in it. And the only thing that really changed about my appearance was as my bangs grew while I was writing my book, I adopted the rhino horn ponytail to keep it out of my face. So I don't know what you guys do to get through the day, but that was sort of my little trick. Anyway. Since I'm not writing a book, I'm going to do a little strip tease instead. No. Okay, so what I want to talk to you guys about today is expansion and is having the cojones to write the kind of lives for yourselves that you would write for your favorite character. To treat yourself and your go-around on this planet, your one go-around as the you that is you, with the kind of audacity and fearlessness that you would give a superhero character in one of your books. Because I am here to tell you that you can really do it. You can really, truly, truly do it. And so the one thing that is standing between you, regardless of where you are in your life, I mean, I know there's a lot of people here who are just starting out with their writing careers. There's some people who probably haven't even started yet. And there's some people who are very successful, who have several books out. But as human beings, we are constantly in a state of growth. We're constantly looking for the next thing. It's part of our nature. It's part of nature in general. You know, flowers are constantly growing. Trees are constantly growing, and they're dying, and then they're growing again, and they're dying. And it's like, that is just the nature of who we are. And so it is extremely painful when we find ourselves not growing anymore. You know, it's like, even though everybody in this room has achieved the impossible and done just miraculous things, I don't doubt it for every single person in this room, it's very painful when you stop. So what I'm going to do today is give you 5 key things that will help you blast through this stopping and continue to be the gigantic badass that you truly are. So what is it that you think is the thing that keeps you in this rut when your dreams are over here and you're over here? What's sort of that thing in the middle? Anybody know? Fear, exactly. You get an A. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start out reading from my new book, You Are a Badass, How to Stop Doubting Your Greatness and Start Living an Awesome Life. I'm going to read part of the chapter on fear, and then I'm going to talk to you about how to overcome these fears. These glasses are new. I'm really into them. Okay, this is chapter 20. It's called Fear is for Suckers. We tiptoe through life hoping to safely make it to death. That is a quote by somebody, I don't know who the hell it is. When I lived in New Mexico, a friend of mine took me to this cave she'd heard about up in the Jemez Mountains. It's more like a big hole in the ground, actually, she said, but I hear it's pretty cool. She didn't do a great job of selling it, especially when she got to the part about how we'd have to crawl around on all fours the whole time. But I wasn't really listening to her anyway. Caves don't interest me, no matter what size they are. I was only going for the road trip and the hike through the mountains and this great burger place I discovered last time I was up there. The cave was just a necessary part of the trip, like stopping for gas. After a glorious drive beneath the endless New Mexico sky and a beautiful hike on a red dirt path through pinyon pine forest, we got to the cave. It was just as she described it, a little hole at the base of a small hill just big enough to crawl through. My friend tossed me a pair of knee pads and a flashlight and headed in. I followed her on my hands and knees, holding my flashlight with my teeth, and by the time we were about 10 minutes in, I felt like the entrance and my chances of ever seeing another burger again had vanished. If anything came at us from inside the cave, like, say, a monster, or if there was a flash flood or an earthquake or a rattlesnake or even a mosquito, we were totally screwed. The craggy white rock tunnels surrounding us had closed in so tightly that when my friend finally stopped crawling and leaned against the wall to sit, she had to do so with her head bent so far forward it looked like she was about to start chewing on her neck. What the hell was I doing there again? Okay, now for the cool part. You ready? She asked. Turn off your light. She clicked off her flashlight after motioning for me to do the same. The instant my light went out, I experienced the absolute darkest darkness of beyond pitch black, holy fucking shit, deepest darkness, blackness ever. I felt the tickling of hysteria begin to worm its way up the back of my neck. And for the first time in my life, I completely understood fear. Because fear was the only thing I could see in that hole. It sat there, omnipresent, gigantic, all-consuming, staring me straight in the face, asking, "So, you gonna let me swallow you up or what?" I realized that with absolutely zero effort, I could unravel into a claustrophobic freakout of such scratching, biting, high-pitched, crazy lady screaming colossalness that it would leave both me and my friends staring at a wall, playing with our lips for weeks after they dragged our limp and bloodied bodies out of that cave. Or not. The choice was mine. To fear or not to fear, that is the question. I'm pleased to report that I decided to forego the fear frenzy in favor of calmly crawling back out of the cave to the land of sunshine, open spaces, and walking on two legs. I emerged with not only an alarming amount of sand in my ears and a severe lockjaw from cracking the flashlight with my teeth, but a new and profound understanding of the choice aspect of fear. It's so simple. Fear will always be there, poised and ready to wreak havoc. But we can choose whether we're going to engage with it or turn on the lights, drown it out, and crawl past it. I also realize that drowning it out is actually pretty easy. We've just been conditioned to believe otherwise. We've made being in fear a habit. We're pumped full of it as children, like sugar. Then as we grow, we continue to take in the bad news on TV and the horror in the papers and the violence in books and films and video games and all this junk that fills us to the brim with fear about our world. We're taught to play it safe and not take risks and to caution everyone around us to follow suit. And it's become such an accepted part of our social conditioning that we don't even realize we're doing it. For example, what would your immediate response be to someone you really loved and deeply cared about if they said, whilst sputtering with excitement, any of the following things to you? 1, I'm taking out a gigantic loan to build my dream business. 2, I'm going to travel around the world for a year by myself. 3, I'm quitting my secure full-time job to become an actor. 4, I met the most incredible person last week and I'm totally in love. And we're getting married. 5, I'm going skydiving. For the most part, when we watch someone take a leap of faith, our first reaction is to scream, "Look out!" We've not only made a habit of smearing our fear and worry and doubt all over each other, but we pat ourselves on the backs for it because we believe that it shows how much we care. That's something worth being scared of, if you ask me. There's something called the crab effect. If you put a bunch of crabs in a bowl, and if, while they're crawling around all over each other, one of them tries to climb out, the rest of them will try to pull him back down instead of helping to push him out. No wonder they're called crabs. Imagine how different our world would be if we were less crab-like. If we were not only taught to really, truly believe in miracles, yes, I realize how dorky that sounds, but were rewarded and supported instead of cautioned and screamed at for taking huge leaps into the unknown. We give a lot of lip service to the idea that anything is possible, and we all grow up with posters of kittens and baby seals on our walls that say, "Follow your dreams" on them. But should you actually do something radical, all the flashing lights and sirens go off. Know what I'm saying? Fear lives in the future. The feeling of being afraid is real, but the fear itself is all made up because it hasn't even happened yet. Death, going bankrupt, breaking a leg, forgetting our lines, getting yelled at for being late, getting rejected. Most of the time, we have no guarantee that what we fear is going to even happen, and that if it does, that it's going to be scary. Take death, for example. For all we know, we leave our bodies and melt into a state of pure love and light and sparkly things and unicorns and bunnies and eternal orgasmic giddiness. We can be as sure of that as we can about anything else in the future, so why create all the drama? All it takes to turn the fear factor around is learning to be comfortable in, instead of terrified of, the unknown. And this is done through faith. It basically comes down to how you choose to go through life. Is your fear greater than your faith in the unknown and yourself? Or is your faith in the unknown and yourself greater than your fear? There's that incredible moment when you decide, screw it, I'm going for it, and suddenly the thrill overtakes the fear. And then you're flying on the magic carpet. You're signing on the dotted line to buy the house, confronting your father, sliding the ring onto the finger, stepping onto the stage in front of thousands. I mean, talk about feeling alive. On the other side of your fear is your freedom. So... So I'm going to talk about how to traverse the space between your fear and your freedom. And I want to start by saying that really all of our fear and all of our many very creative excuses boil down to sort of the two key fears that follow us around throughout our lives. The first fear is that we're not good enough. And this fear is, the fear of being abandoned, the fear of not being lovable. Like, this is a really, really deep one. The other fear is the fear that what we want is not available to us. That, other people, we see these other people with these magnificent lives and getting on Oprah and buying mansions and yachts and whatever. And it's almost like they're a different species than we are, like it's available to them. But I mean, me, are you kidding? So those are the two things that it usually boils down to. And I want to talk about how you can get over them. And the good news is you don't have to really do anything. What I'm going to talk about isn't about doing. We live in such a world of to-do lists, and you check things off, and we measure our success by how much we get done every day. It's really about who you're being more than what you're doing. You still have to do stuff. I wish I could say you didn't have to do stuff, but sadly you do. But it's more about who you're being. And I remember the first time I heard this, I was like, great, what the hell does that mean? So there was a very specific time in my life when the lights went on in that department for me, and it was when I was trying to quit smoking. I am somebody who loves cigarettes. Oh my God, I love them so much. Like just the taste of them, the whole ritual around them, but mostly just the feeling that runs through my body when that nicotine hits my cells. It's so tasty. I also think it is perhaps the most disgusting and stupid thing you can spend your time doing, to purposefully be poisoning yourself. So, as much as I loved it, I was like, dude, this is pretty ridiculous. So I, spent many years trying to quit, and I did all the things that I knew to do. I, sort of stopped hanging out with my smoky friends. I cut down on my drinking. I put the patch on, chewed the gum, surrounded myself with pictures of cancer-ridden black lungs. And that worked for a while, but inevitably I would go to some party and I'd be like, why am I being so uptight about this? I'm going to live a long time. I can have one cigarette. It's not going to kill me. And then, of course, like one cigarette led to me, I got up to a pack a day in about 15 minutes. So that wasn't really my style. So I decided to start acting like a person who doesn't smoke. And it was more about shifting my consciousness than anything I did. And this was the thing that absolutely got me there. I haven't had a cigarette in 25 years now. And so, but all I had to do, you guys, was change who I was being. So what is a person who doesn't smoke? How are they being? They wouldn't even have the conversation in their head like, maybe I'll just have a drag. Maybe I'll just have one cigarette. Because they don't smoke. It's like, I'm not going to leave this talk and like figure out if I'm going to go shoot heroin afterwards because I don't shoot heroin. You know what I mean? So it's like, I cut out the negotiation process. Like the second it started, I just didn't even go down that path. And it was really easy once I did that. So if you can really understand getting behind this being thing, I'm telling you, you will get to where you want to be 10 times faster and 10 times mightier than all the to-do lists in the world. So, and the great thing is you can start doing it right now. Like every second of every day, like right now, and right now, like every moment that you're sitting there, you can choose to just be whoever the hell it is that you want to be. Your past is literally behind you. You didn't sign on some dotted line that you got to drag that crap around with you your whole life. Just decide right now to start being the kind of person that you want to be. It's a choice. So the first thing that I want to talk about is urgency. And this was really shoved in my face 2 years ago. For the past 2 years, I've been what I like to call home free. I got rid of my house and most of my stuff, and I become sort of a global nomad, and I don't live anywhere. And the way this happened was I was working with a coach at the time, and I was taking a vacation. I was living in LA, a city that I never really liked that much, quite honestly. And I had this online business, and I was a writer, and I was going to Italy in 2 weeks to go hang out with my family and travel and have a great time. And then all of a sudden, my cat died. I had this cat who was 22 years old, and he died. And it was basically my only dependent. And so once he was gone, I was truly free. But whatever, it didn't really cross my mind to do anything radical until my coach was like, well, why don't you go to Italy and just not come back? And I was like, what do you mean? And she had to say it like 10 times before it actually sunk in, like, I could actually not have a home. Like, it was so outside of my realm of reality, and yet so awesome. Like, I love to travel. It is my absolute favorite thing. Didn't even like LA, had an online business, was a writer. Like, how hard is that math equation? But I only had 2 weeks to get my act together, right? Because I was going to Italy in 2 weeks, and one of those weeks I was teaching one of my writers' boot camps. So I basically had a week to pull it all together, to get rid of my house, all my stuff, say goodbye to my friends, have my panic attack, everything I had to fit into that 1 week. And I am so glad I did, you guys, because, there's never a good time to do the stuff that we want to do, right? There's never a good time, but we put it off. And I know if I hadn't taken the leap right then and there and followed my intuition into that freaking scary black hole, because trust me, as terrified as I was about that, I was equally as excited. And I will tell you right now, that is the key to knowing when you're onto something. When you want to change your life and you get an intuitive hit that feels so right but that scares the living crap out of you, that's the one you got to do. Because if you get an intuitive hit that feels all scrunchy and comfy and happy, you're not going anywhere. If you want to leap outside of your comfort zone, it's going to be uncomfortable. So follow the scary thing. You got to be scared or you're not on the right path. So anyway, so that was my big realization about this urgency thing. And, when we go through our lives, we tend to decide that some things are urgent and some things aren't. So like right now, if you found out that you had to have open heart surgery and it was going to cost $15,000, not everybody has $15,000 lying around, but if your life depended on it, by tomorrow morning, I guarantee you would freaking find $15,000, right? The mistake we make is acting like the things that we want, that our life doesn't depend on the things that we want to create. And it's like, actually, your life does depend on it, because you're going to be living a crappy life if you don't get on it and make these things happen. So creating a sense of urgency in your life is so important, because all this stuff that we're pretending we don't have time for, actually you do. There are certain things, like if you want to have a baby, it probably is going to take 9 months. But the majority of things that you're pretending that you can't have right now, you totally can. You're just being a weenie about it, okay? So here's what I want everybody to do right now. If you've got something to write on, I want you to really think about the thing in your life that you want to do that has been lingering, that you're pretending you don't have time for. And I don't care what it is. It's got to be scary. But it could be starting to take salsa dancing classes and you haven't been doing it because you're afraid you're going to look like an idiot. Or finishing your book. Or leaving your crappy husband. What is the big scary thing that you've been putting off that is going to change your life for the better? So really, you know what it is. Write it down. And here's the other thing. Today's Saturday. You have to do it by Saturday. You have 1 week. Okay? So I really want you to do this, you guys. There's no reason. It is so liberating when you really take that leap and go for it. Okay. The next thing, because everybody's I'll give you maybe 30 seconds for this. 15, 20 minutes, including Q&A or... Cool, got it. I can totally do that. Okay, so now the next thing I want to talk about is tenacity. And tenacity is critical if you want to get to where you're going. I used to write a column where I interviewed very successful entrepreneurs, and I always asked them what they credited their success to, and the thing that kept coming up as the number one thing that they credited it to was tenacity, was to be the last person standing, was to go for it with just a hell-bent, balls out, not stopping kind of attitude. And tenacity, when you make it, there's a big difference between wanting to change your life and deciding to change your life. Wanting is basically you sign up to do it until it gets really hard, or you're afraid you're going to look stupid, or it's going to cost a lot of money. When you decide to change your life, you do it no matter what. And I was recently on this flight, and these people got on really late. You know, like when you're sitting on a plane and somebody gets on at the last minute, like they've got literally a captive audience of like 300 people who are strapped in staring at them. So this poor woman gets on with her 2 kids. She's got these 2 boys who are like 9 and 6 or something. She's totally sweaty and frantic and is like cramming her luggage in the overhead and desperately trying to get her kids to sit in their seats. And obviously she'd also bought her tickets very late because none of them were sitting together. They were actually in a row. They all had middle seats. And so the youngest son sits down next to me, and the older kid is standing there and he's not sitting down, and she's like, "Would you sit down in your seat?" Like, you know, like waving to everybody, like, "Sorry." And the kid is not going to sit down. He's like, I'm sitting by the window. And she's like, "You are sitting in that middle seat, and you are sitting in that middle seat right now." And he's like, "No, I'm sitting by the window." And this kid was just like, I mean, he had adults staring at him, like 300 of them, and he was not budging. And I just was watching him, and I was like, I mean, part of me was like, somebody get up and give that kid a spanking. And then the other part of me was like, I wonder if I could hire him to be my coach. And he was so dead set. And sure enough, after a while, somebody got up and gave him a window seat. And I was like, I was so impressed. But that's the kind of tenacity that you got to go after your life with, is just like, stick with it no matter how many things are in your way and how many people are thinking you're a big pain in their ass, and, you know, whatever it is, you go for it no matter what. The third key I want to talk about is intuition. And this is a really big one, you guys, especially as women. We've got like this secret all access backstage pass to our intuition. We're naturally more in tune with it. And it's the kind of thing where we've got this like secret, superhero power inside of us that we're not using. Animals use it all the time, but humans, like, we're at the top of the food chain. We're all impressed with our big brains and how we can, do math problems and be conscious that we're going to die and all this stuff. Meanwhile, this scrambled egg factory is completely blocking out this other awesome tool that we've got inside of our beings. So it's really important to take the time to tap into your intuition, and not only tap into it, but to really start trusting it. To practice trusting it, because this is the thing that is going to catapult you. And I was talking about urgency earlier. The thing is, when you get an intuitive hit, it feels great and scares the crap out of you. That's the holy grail, right? Jump on it right away, because if you don't act on it right away, that's when the excuses have the time to come up and start making the scrambled eggs in your brain, right? So get that intuitive hit, fall back into it, trust it even no matter how crazy it is, and go for it, because that one piece alone will change your life in a day. If you just really tap into that and go for it, I promise you, it really is your superhero cape and tights. The other thing is, the fourth key is investing in yourself. And when I say invest in yourself, I want you to think about what that means. When you invest in yourself, you are literally vested in yourself. So if one of our base fears is that we're not good enough, when you start investing in yourself, you are sending a message to the universe and to yourself that you believe in yourself. And it's so freaking powerful when you start becoming the kind of person who automatically makes a habit out of investing in yourself. This is financially. If you need to take out a loan to get your business off the ground, if you need to hire a writing coach, if you whatever it is that you need, if you need to take vacations often because it gives you ideas to write your books, whatever it is, believe that you're worth it and spend the money on yourself. Invest in yourself spiritually. Give yourself time to meditate, journal, hike around in nature, hang out with hippies, whatever. Whatever is going to strengthen that inner connection with the almighty powerhouse that is truly who you are. Invest time in that. Invest time socially. This is one of the most important things, like the fact that you guys here, you are rock stars. Surround yourself with the kind of people who are doing the kind of stuff you want to be doing and who are successful at it. One of the biggest mistakes we make is putting our rickety, sad sack friends' needs in front of our own, is investing in their lame-ass stories and their lame-ass, stuck neediness over our own desires and dreams and wishes. It doesn't mean that you have to break up with all your old friends, but if they're not bringing anything to the party, you got to move on and invest in the people that are rocking it. Because you know what it's like when you're surrounded by people who are totally lit up by life and inspired and kicking ass. Not only does it inspire you, but it makes you feel like a big goober for not going after it yourself, right? So take the time to invest in that. Invest in yourself physically. Eat well, exercise, have hot sex, talk about your body like you love it. Really pay attention to this incredible machine. Seriously, it's a freaking miracle, these things. Whoever made these is pretty freaking smart, right? So, come on, how dare you talk badly about it? I'm so not into that. So seriously, start talking about your body in a positive way. Appreciate it. And, yeah. So that's the fourth one. The fifth one is to believe. And this is a really big one because is to believe in the unbelievable, right? So if you want to start living a life that you've never lived before, you got to start believing that it's there. Even if you have a lifetime of proof that you suck at meeting men, that you can't make money if there was a gun to your head, that you can't lose weight, your whole life this has been your thing. Believe it anyway. We live in a world that has drilled into our heads, I'll believe it when I see it, and that's totally backwards. You have to believe it first, and then you will see it. Like that little kid on the plane, he didn't see no window seat. He saw a big fat spanking on the other end of that flight, and a bunch of people who were really pissed off at him, but he believed that it was his. I saw it in his whole body language. So get practiced at that. Become the kind of person. Watch the way that you're thinking and watch the way that you're speaking, and start getting into this. It's almost like you got to go a little cuckoo, honestly. Like, obviously it's not there. Everybody can see that it's not there. Believe it's there anyway and act as if. Become the kind of person that acts as if. And I'm telling you, whatever is on your to-do list, this will be the rocket ship to getting you where you want to go. Thank you. Oh, you guys. What a cute bunch of... And what about Janet Wallace? My God. Can you even believe this person exists? Wait, you guys, I want to take your picture. Sorry, I know, but I don't even have a big enough camera for all the love in this room.
Just recap the top 5 one more time. So
yes.
Urgency, tenacity.
Oh, thank you.
Intuition. Investing in yourself.
And believe.
I just want to make sure everyone got 5.
Yeah. No, I want... Okay. I actually want the crowd, but you can take us too. Well, okay, that's okay. Take us while we're here. Yes, okay.
Okay, thanks. I'm going to take a picture of the audience.
Stay standing. Yeah, stay standing. Make me look cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
The standing O, people.
Oh, my God, you guys.
The standing O, yes.
So adorable. Okay, wait. I gotta get all of you.
What did I tell you? What did I tell you? You wanted to be here for Jen Sincero. She's amazing. We have 15 to maybe 15 and change minutes left. If you have any questions, does anybody have questions? We can do a little Q&A.
Be brave.
Can I be your assistant and travel around?
Does anyone want to share what scares the hell out of them?
Hey, I'm moving in with my daughter and her 3 kids.
That would do it.
So do we have 15 minutes for book? I have copies of You Are a Badass outside that I'll be selling and signing.
Selling and signing in the back where the bloggers are.
And I've only got 20 copies, so I welcome wrestling matches and whatever we got to do. Okay.
But it is available in bookstores and online too, but you can't get them signed there. So.
But really, let's take, so Janet, I'm still not clear. I have 15 minutes for questions and signing?
The
Okay.
panels start at 10.
Okay.
If you want to
No. Oh, okay, but that's in 35 minutes.
Wait, what time is it?
It's 9:35.
Okay, so you're 25 minutes.
Right. I'm a writer, not a mathematician. Okay, so we will do 10 minutes of Q&A, and then we'll do signing. If that's cool. 7 minutes Q&A. Okay, let's go. Be brave, guys. Yes, you. Awesome question. So she said, how do you counteract the people in your lives who don't believe the way that you want to believe? Honestly, the best way is to not hang out with them. And so but I'm really serious, and I know that you can't. Exactly. I'm getting there. Yes. Okay. So yeah, you can't. I mean, obviously there are people that you have to be around, but you can't change them. That is not your job. They are on their own journey, and if they want to be on a journey of pessimism and fear and gnarliness, that is totally their option. You lead by example. You don't get into conversations with them about it, and you hang out with the kind of people who are doing it, because you have your own fear, doubt, and worry to combat all the time. So the more you can surround yourself with people who are doing that kind of stuff, the more powerful you're going to feel. So yes, and especially if it's your spouse, where it's like you're making decisions together, if you are so like that kid on the plane, if you are so lovingly, I mean, that kid was not having a temper tantrum and being a big brat. He was very solid in his resolve. When somebody really loves you and you are really resolved, they'll usually, even if they think you're high as a kite for wanting to do what you want to do, if you really believe in yourself, that is the only way to get past their fear, is your belief. The amount of screaming and explaining and trying to convince them and trying to get them to your side, that's not going to do it. It's when you truly, truly believe and have that resolve. But if you cannot hang out with them, don't hang out with them.
At least for a while.
Yeah.
How do you know when intuition isn't paranoia?
How do you know when intuition isn't paranoia? Well, first of all, first of all, you have to practice it, honestly. And so I really recommend, like, at the supermarket, like getting intuitive about what you should buy, like little stupid things like that. Start getting quiet and listening. So when you start to develop this muscle, and meditation, you guys, like, I don't know if you guys meditate, and it doesn't have to be a big thing, like 5 minutes a day will get you where you need to go. Like, really just start doing it. And when you get a hit, the inner knowing, you'll just know. I mean, it's your intuition. If it's paranoia, like, I'm not actually quite clear on that. Like, what a paranoid hit, like, if it's something you don't want to do, but it still excites you, that's when it's the real deal. If it's something you get an intuitive hit about and it doesn't seem fun, that's not something you're going to go for. Does that answer the question? Yeah? Okay. Yep.
So how do you decide if you're being fearless or reckless?
Great question. Okay, that's a really great question. There is a fine line sometimes, but again, it's the intuition on you get one shot at this life, you guys. One shot being you. So if you get an intuitive hit, and believe me, like when I decided to leave everything behind, my biggest fear was my business is going to tank. I'm going to be traveling all over the world. I'm not going to be able to focus on that crap. I'm just going to be like, woo! And my business was just starting to get really, 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 really good. So it was like, oh, I'm gonna blow it. So it seemed very reckless to me at the time, but the rightness of it was so undeniable. Like, it was so freaking undeniable. So when you're taking that really big leap and it's just like, oh my God, it will seem reckless, but it has to have equal amounts of rightness to it also. And you'll know, like, when you get used to that intuition. Also, like, consulting people who are experts. Like, really, when it comes to, like, investing in things and whatever, like, it never hurts to talk to somebody who's very experienced in it, who's also a badass. Not somebody who's a negative Nelly, but somebody who takes risks themselves and knows about this kind of stuff. But trust yourself. It really is about trusting yourself and deciding whether you're not going for it because it's reckless or because you're being a weenie. And that's really going to come from here. Great questions. Great questions, you guys. I think we'll take one more. Oh. Okay. Yep. You practice. Fail all the time. Fail all the time. I have a quote in this book, I can't remember, but like Thomas Edison failed at like 9,000 experiments or something. Like all the biggies have fallen on their faces a million times before they got anywhere. So failure is practice. And also seeing it as a learning experience as opposed to a failure. You know, you learn, if you don't fail, you don't learn anything. So, okay, we'll take one more. That was a quick one. Anybody else? Miss Wallace? How can people work with me? That's a great question. Okay, thank you for asking it. No, I'm actually going to start working on a group coaching program around this book, using it sort of as a textbook, walking you through the steps of it. That's coming relatively soon, but what I'm starting in a month and a half is another one of my book proposal in a week boot camps. I wrote the book proposal for this in 1 week, and I wrote the book proposal for the previous book in 1 week, and I'm a big, I'm like the queen of urgency, so it's like, if you've been putting off writing a nonfiction book forever, which writers tend to do that more than any other art form. Have you noticed that? We will drag around a book idea for freaking decades. You don't hear painters doing that or musicians doing that, but anyway. So I'm a big believer in just getting the job done. So and I've done this boot camp a million times, and it's so much fun, and my clients have just rocked it. So go to jensincero.com and enter your name and email address, and you'll get information on my boot camp. It's the second week of August. Okay, you guys, that's it. So I'm going to be signing books outside. Thank you so much. This was so much fun. Thank you. Yeah, thanks for the road.